Hello friends, welcome back with one another GATE 2021 OS question. Okay, the question is given which is related with the multi-threaded code segment in which they are given two different processes P1 and P2 and each spawn two threads T1 and T2. So one process, two threads, second process, two threads. Now here they have given that there is a x equal to 0 which is global for a particular process. Okay, then there is a lock and there is a main method which is starting for every particular process. So we are creating a particular thread and execute this foo. Again we create a particular thread and we execute a particular foo. So we have two threads which we are creating. This is t1 t2. Then wait for the both the threads to complete and then we print the x value. Okay, so here this is the concept which we are trying to do, and basically these are the steps or these are the options which we are given. So this question is basically an MSQ question. So let's try to understand here how it will work. So let's take if I am having a process P1. Let's first discuss for the process P1. It will make the value of x equal to 0, a lock L1, create one thread T1. Okay, so he just created particular one thread T1. Okay, then it has executed foo. So here what the scenario is, it is having the y equal to 0, acquire L1. Acquire L1 means it has acquired a lock onto it. So lock L1 is been acquired on this. So any other thread cannot execute that at the same time. It has increment the value of x by 1 and it has increment the value of y by 1. So basically T1 does what? T1 increment the value of x by 1. So initially the value of x was 0 and is incremented by 1 and the value of y also incremented by 1. Okay, then after the lock is being used. So here after doing this part the lock is basically released. So until and unless this T1 lock is not released, T2 cannot continue at the same time. So T2 only completes when the only starts when the T1 acquire lock is released. Okay, then after T2 increment the value of x by 1. So value of x is basically global for entire process. So here already T1 has incremented the value of x by 1. So it will increment the value of x by 2. And the value of y is local for each thread. So if you know, each and every thread execute a foo. Okay, so foo is basically execute a method which is executed by each and every specific thread. So that's why the y is local to each thread. So this is basically each thread. Okay, understand the concept. This x is basically for a process and y is basically for a thread. So basically the value of y will again become 1. Now after this is the scenario, like it will print the value of y equal to 1, it will print the value of y equal to 1, and then we are waiting for two threads to finish the execution. And finally we are printing the value of x. So P1 will print the value of y equal to 1 for each thread, okay, and the value of x equal to 2 for at the final. So here the option is both T1, T2 in both the process will print the value of y as 1. Yeah, so T1, T2 in P1 is doing the value of y as 1. Both P1, P2 will print the value of x as 2. Yeah, it is printing, the P1 is printing the value of x as 2. At least one of the thread will print the value of y as 2. Okay, let's check with the second one. At least one of P1, P2 will print the value of x as 2. So we had checked only for the first process, which is P1 as of now. Let's try to understand for the second process. So here, each and every process is unique. It will have a global x equal to 0 value. When it has spawned the first thread, it has initially have the value of y equal to 0. When it has spawned the second thread, it will be initially have the value of y equal to 0. Now this thread increment the value of x by 1. So it will make the value of x by 1 and it will increment the value of y by 1. Now this thread increment the value of x by 2 1 which will make 2 and also the value of y by 1. So here also for P2 also the value of y equal to 1 for both the T1 and T2 and the value of x equal to 2 5. Okay, why this is happening? Because here each and every particular process is doing the sequential execution by acquiring the lock. Here there is a no chance of a particular concurrent execution which is there. Even though we are having a thread, but while incrementing, each and every thread is doing a particular incrementation. Okay, and after both the thread execution is completed, then and then only we are printing the value of x. So both T1 and T2 in both the process will print the value of y as 1. Yeah. So here the value of y is 1, here the value of y is 1. If you look here, the value of y is 1 for both T1 and T2. Yeah. So this statement is correct. Both P1 and P2 will print the value of x2. So here this is printing the value of x2. Here this is also printing the value of x2 at the end. So yeah, this statement is also correct. At least one of the thread will print the value of y as 2. No. Here all the threads is printing the value of y as 1 only. If you check the first statement only we had stated is true that both T1 and T2 and both the process will print the value of y as 1. Okay, so it will never ever print the value of y as 2. So this is not correct. At least one of P1 and P2 will print when the x of value is 4. Okay, so x value is 2 which is printed by P1. The x value of 2 is printed by P2 also. So this one is also false. So the correct answer for this particular question is A. Okay, so I hope you understood the question. This is a very simple multi-threaded based question. Okay, in which we are having the synchronous or a serial execution of each and every thread. So I recommend you to kindly practice this question as much as possible, or this type of all the other questions as much as possible. Okay, so this is all for this video. We'll be coming back with the next question in the next video. Okay, all the best, good luck, and keep practicing this type of questions. Welcome back to one another GATE 2021 based OS question. Okay, so the question is pretty simple. Which of the following is correct which related with the CPU scheduling is an MSQ question. So we need to check all the options. Okay, the first is the goal is to only maximize the CPU utilization and minimize the throughput. Okay, so first and the foremost thing, the goal is to maximize CPU utilization and also to increase the throughput. Okay, to increase a particular throughput. Okay, that's the wrong statement which we are having, and also to decrease the waiting time, turnaround time, all the different time, response time. Okay, so everybody said so only to maximize CPU utilization and minimize throughput. That's wrong. So first of all, it is to increase the throughput, and second is to also we need to have to reduce the waiting time, turnaround time, response time. So A option is completely wrong. Okay, so kindly to understand, we need to increase the utilization, increase the throughput, reduce the waiting time, reduce turnaround time, reduce response time. Okay, so A option is not correct. Let's try to discuss about the second. So turnaround time includes the waiting time. So it's a very correct. So turnaround time is basically the combination of, it's in the definition of this, waiting time plus the burst time or execution time. It's the combination of waiting time plus burst time. So we can say the turnaround time includes the waiting time. That's completely correct. Okay, so your B option is correct. So turnaround time includes the waiting time. Okay, implementing preemptive scheduling requires the hardware support. Okay, so in the C option, whenever we do a particular preemptive scheduling, it means that we need to swap the process, okay, for any other process, or not for, with any other process based on the requirement, with any other process based on the priority. Okay, based on what? Based on the priority. Now this work can be done using the hardware support only. So always understand we require the hardware support whenever we wanted to do a particular type of a preemptive scheduling. So this is also correct. Okay, and the last one is basically telling that implementing the round robin policy can be used even when the CPU time of the process is not known in the prior. Okay, so round robin or RR does not require any about info about the CPU or execution time. Okay, it would be required in the case of LJF, SJF, SRTF, okay, which is basically related with the length of the CPU time, or you can say the LRTF. Only in this the length of the CPU is required. Okay, so for round robin, we not require any particular information about the CPU time in prior. Okay, so we can do this without knowing any knowledge about the CPU time. Okay, so this one is also correct. So if you check here, the first one A is wrong, but the answer A, B, C, D are correct. So final answer, which we'll be getting here, it will be basically B, C, and so this is a very simple question, friends, in which we just need to identify the basic concept related with the CPU schedule. Okay, the first is wrong because the utilization and throughput is also need to be increment. Second, turnaround time includes the waiting time plus burst time. Preemptive scheduling requires the hardware support to swap the process, and round robin does not require any CPU time. Okay, so the basic idea related to the CPU scheduling would be helpful to solve this particular problem quite easily. Okay, so I hope you have understood this. Kindly try to practice this type of question. That's all for this video. We'll be coming back with the new questions in the next video. Thanks so much, everybody. Welcome back with one another GATE 2021 OS question. Okay, this is also one of the MSQ questions. So the question is pretty simple. So here we are having a computer system with multiple shared resources and we are having one instance per resource. Okay, and we are having a global lock where we can able to own and freeze a particular and free a particular resource. So the concept is that we are having an own resource concept. So first of all, it will acquire a global lock L. If R is available, then we can have acquire L, acquire the resource R and release the lock L. So if R is available for any process, it will directly acquire by using a lock and then it will release the lock and do the process. If R is owned by another process P, then terminate P after releasing all resource owned by P. Okay, so it will, if there is already being no, R is owned by some other, then we directly terminate P and release all the resource owned by P and then acquire R. Then we restart the P and then release lock. Okay, so the concept is if R is available, we would directly acquire it. Else, we acquire by killing P. Okay, which is having basically R. That's what the process which we are following here. Okay, so here we need to say that which of these particular output of this particular scheme is correct. The first thing, the scheme ensures that deadlock will never occur. Yeah. So here, if we check A for the deadlock, so deadlock here there is a no chance of deadlock because if any time are available, we take it. Okay, then we take it. Else we kill that process and kill other process and take it. Okay, after we killing that other process, we are taking it. So here no two process wait for each other. Wait for each other. So because of that, there is no deadlock here. Deadlock is never possible here. Okay, about the B part, let's try to understand. The scheme violates the mutual exclusion property. Okay, so mutual exclusion says that only one process, mutual exclusion, only one process in CS at a time. Okay, so because of the lock which is acquired here, this is guaranteed. This is guaranteed because of lock. This is there, this is present due to lock. The lock which we have applied, so mutual exclusion is present. So the second option is incorrect. We say the scheme violate the mutual exclusion property. Okay. The third option is that the scheme may lead to live lock. Okay. So live lock is basically a concept in which the request is denied repeatedly. Okay, so let's say if a process P requests for a particular lock, it gets that particular resource R, but then some other process terminates it. Again, it restart, it again asks for the resource R, that some other process might come and it again terminate it. So that is a possibility that request by any process P, request by any process P for R, okay, is denied repeatedly. So every time it requests for R, okay, somebody else might take the R, or if it has already hold the R, somebody might else get terminated. Okay, so live lock here is definitely possible. Okay, coming to the option number D, which is saying that the scheme may lead to starvation. Yeah, starvation is also possible as I have given in the previous. As in C, we say that some process denied repeatedly. Okay, maybe some process are restarted continuously. Restarted continuously. Okay, it means what? It has taken a particular resource, other process came, it restarted. Again, it takes a resource, the other process come, it restarted. So that's why it would starve the resources. So that's why the process might starve for resource R. So this is 100% possible. So if you check the option, deadlock will not occur. That's correct. Okay, we have already checked that a deadlock is not occur because one process either the no two processes wait for each other. So that is correct. Second, we check that the mutual exclusion is present. So this one is not correct because mutual exclusion is present. The scheme may lead to live lock. Yeah, that request for I denied repeatedly, and because of that, the starvation might also occur. Okay, so here because of this live lock and starvation both would be occur. So the answer is basically A, C, and D. Okay, so this question is little bit complex, but you can understand this by a simple and simple mechanism of understanding how the locks is acquired and how each and every process is. Okay, so the answer is basically A, C, and D for this process, and mutual exclusion is also being there. So that's why it is voluntary mutual exclusion, which is incorrect. So your answer is A, C, and D. Okay, that's all for this particular video. Kindly practice this type of question as much as possible. We'll come again in the next video with the next question. Thanks so much, everybody. Thank you so much. All the best. Welcome back with one another GATE 2021 question, which was asked for operating system. Okay, so the question is somewhat complex. We are given a three-level page table and a particular page offset of 12 bits. The current page size is basically 4 KB, which is 1 KB is 2 to 10, so 4 KB is 2 to 12, which represent a particular page offset here. Okay, so page size represents a particular type of the page offset, and the page table entry size as every particular label is given as 8 bits. Okay, so if you want to find a page table entry size in total, okay, so we are having every particular label, we are having the 9 bits, so 2 raised to 9, which is there in every particular table, into per particular level we are having 8 bytes. So total, if you want to find the page table entry size, it will be 2 raised to 12 bytes, or you can say it's 4 KB. Okay, that's what we can able to find over the entirely page table entry size in total per level. This is per level. Okay, so hope you understand this particular concept, what we are trying to do. Okay, or you can say all the levels is having the same thing, so we can take into consideration for all level also. A process P is currently using 2 GB of memory. Okay, if it is using the 2 GB of memory, if it is using 2 GB of memory, okay, which is mapped to 2 GB to physical memory. So virtual memory and physical memory both are mapped. So if you are using 2 GB of memory, okay, and we know that the page size is basically 4 KB. So total, if you're having 2 raised to 30 for 1 GB, so 2 GB would be having 2 raised to 31. If we divide with the page size, we find that total we require 2 raised to 19 pages. Okay, so this is the conceptual here. Okay, so and the minimum amount of memory we require for the page table of P across all tables. So we require the minimum amount of memory for the page table. Like what is the page table we require for this, where we are mapping the frames and the pages. Okay, so total we need to map 2 raised to 19 pages. In all, you need to map 2 raised to 19 different pages are there inside our entire process. The process is basically of what? It is basically of 2 GB. Okay, and total we are having, in total we are having 2 raised to 19 pages. Okay, which we are taking into consideration. Okay, now the level 3 page table is basically of what? It's basically of 9 bits. Okay, so that's why what we can do, that level 3 can only point to the 2 raised to 9 entries. Okay, so one page table of level 3 can point to 2 raised to 9 particular pages in VM only. Okay, so that's why we will require more pages to point this 2 raised to 9. Okay, so if one page can point 2 raised to 9, then we require more pages to do this particular part here. Okay, so basically for the level 3, if we are checking here, for level 3, we would require basically a 2 raised to 10 pages. So one for 2 raised to 9 and another for 2 raised to 10, which can point to all of these particular pages here. Now for making this particular 2 raised to 1, see, every one page of level 2, if you check for every one page of level 2, it can point to 2 raised to 9. Every one page of level 2 can point to 2 raised to 9. Okay, and then remaining one we would require for here. Okay, so we are having 2 raised to 9 pages which is present here, and 2 raised to 9, 2 raised to 10, which we are having the total level 3 page tables which is required for 2 raised to 10. Okay, so for level 2 we will require two different entries. Okay, for level 3 we require 2 raised to 10. Why 2 raised to 10? Because if we check, it is 2 raised to 19 each. Okay, so 2 raised to 9 can able to point 2 raised to 18. For every one particular page, every one particular point of this level 3 can point to basically 2 raised to 9. Okay, so basically if we check 2 raised to 9, total can point to 2 raised to 18. Okay, because everyone 2 raised to 9, so you can consider it will be 2 raised to 18. So for 2 raised to 19, we require one more level page, which will be pointing to 2 raised to 19, or we can also point to 2 raised to 20, but we can take it 2 raised to 19. So for pointing these, everyone can point 2 raised to 9. Everyone can point 2 raised to 9 from here. Okay, why so? Because these both are belonging to 9 bits. Okay, now for here two different page table, we require here basically one entry. So every one can point to 2 raised to 9. So we require only one entry which will point to both of these two. Okay, so I am having one here, so I will point both of these two. So basically here we require 2 raised to 10 in total. The number of particular page table we require to point to 2 raised to 19 pages. For that 2 raised to 10, we will require 2 of level 2 and 1 of level 1. Okay, this is basically the level 1. Okay, so I want you to understand, for one of page table level 1 can point to 2 raised to 9. Here there are only 2. Now one of these level 2 can point to 2 raised to 9, but here we require 2 raised to 10 to point 2 raised to 19 pages, which we are having in total for this particular part. Okay, so total we are having 2 raised to 19 pages, for which we require 2 raised to 10. Okay, for 2 raised to 10 we require different scenarios in level 3. So to the total we can have is 2 raised to 9, and 2 raised to 9 can point to 2 raised to 18, and one which is remaining one, which is basically 2 raised 18 and 19, 2 raised to 18 remaining can be point by here. Okay, so this is how the entire structure would be happening. So total number of page tables we require. So if you take the total page tables across all levels, would be 1 which is for level 1, 2 which is for level 2, and 2 raised to 10 for basically level 3. Okay, so this is basically we get the total number of page tables. So 2 raised to 10 is 1024 and 1027 page. Okay, and we had already checked that one page table entry size is basically of 40. Okay, so total page table size, if you want to find the total page table size, so total we will require 1027 page table, where 1 is for level 1, 2 is for level 2, and 2 raised to 10 is for level 3. Okay, into each and every particular page table size, which is 4 KB. Okay, so if you multiply this in this way, you will get the answer, which is 4108 KB. Okay, so this would be your answer, which is the total size along all the particular levels for that particular page. Okay, so kindly understand this particular concept, very simple. Here we are having level 3. At level 3, we are having 2 raised to 9, because it is having of level 3 is of 9 bits of offset. So it can point to 2 raised to 9. Okay, each and every entry can point to 2 raised to 9. So that's why it will make 2 raised to 18 in short, but it is less because we require 2 raised to 19 page. So that's why we require 2 raised to 10, which can point to 2 raised to 20, which will suffice 2 raised to 19. And for that part, everyone can point to 2 raised to 9. So we require 2 here, and here everyone can point to 2 raised to 9, and here there are 2 only. So we can able to do that easily. So total this much page table would be required. This is the number of page table, and each page table is having 4108. For each page table is having 4 KB. So total is 4108. So your answer to this part is basically 4108. Okay, this is the answer which we are supplying here. So I recommend you to kindly try to understand this question, because this question is a little bit more complex to understand. Okay, so kindly try to practice this types of question as much as possible. All the best, good luck, and keep practicing these types of questions as much as possible.